everybody, so today I've got a few new releases to show you, starting with the Mercier, the new Tinted Moisturizer, the reformulated Dewy Tinted Moisturizer. So I'm going to try this for the very first time, giving you my first reaction. I've got the new liner from Victoria Beckham in the shade Jean, so I'm going to try a look with that. And I've picked up two of the lightest shades just released from Patrick Tar. So he's released 4 shades, 2 of them are dark, 2 of them are lighter. So I've got both of the lighter ones and I'll be trying both of those on today. I've just received them today. So I can't wait to get started with this. And if you're new here, hi, my name's Hannah. I'm 48, not a professional, just somebody who loves makeup and beauty. And here on my channel, I like to show you my favourite looks, give you any beauty news, but most of all, review the latest releases. And if you think you'd be interested in that, please do subscribe to my channel. It's super helpful. And if you're already subscribed, thank you so much for being here and welcome back. And my skin type, I've got fair to light skin with neutral/cool undertones, and I've got combination skin that is mostly dry with a slightly oily T-zone. Anyway, that's enough about me. Let's get straight into this video. So the first thing I'm going to start with is the Mercier. So I haven't actually tried the original, so I'm not going to be able to tell you if this is better than the original. So apologies for that. But I did want to try this when I heard the description of it. So here is the packaging. So it's coming in a tube and it is £39. It is a squeezy tube, so there's no pump inside this one. And it also has SPF 30. So this is a tinted moisturizer giving a natural dewy finish. And it's saying it gives 16-hour buildable coverage, 24-hour hydration for softer, smoother, brighter skin. So this one is 80% skincare based, which seems to be the trend at the moment, a trend that works well for me. And whilst the coverage is buildable, it is sheer to light. So I'm not expecting much in the way of coverage from this, as you wouldn't really with a tinted moisturizer. It says it will leave your skin looking naturally plump and hydrated with a dewy finish that lasts all day. And over time, your skin's tone and texture will be improved because of the skincare benefits. And despite having SPF in it, it also says that there is no photo flashback with this one. It's non-comedogenic, it's non-acnogenic, it's dermatologist tested and ophthalmologist tested. And it also says that it's humidity proof, so your makeup will not melt, smudge or move once you've got this as your base, apparently. So my first question when I saw the amount of skincare in this is what sort of base should I have on? Because if you've been following my recent reviews, I reviewed the Hourglass foundation, which had so much skincare in that when I went in with my normal base, which is the Bobbi Brown face base, which is a very thick skincare, it just didn't work. The skincare was too much. They slipped and slid all over my face together. They just didn't mesh. So I did actually find something that worked, because the next thing I tried with that was going straight in with the Hourglass with nothing underneath, and then I was getting dry patches here. So I finally found a solution, and that was to use the MAC Serumizer as my primer. So this is something I really love. Sometimes I might use this as a first step before SPF and then go in with a primer. But I've also used this a few times in the past as a primer, and it's a very good primer if you want a very lightweight but moisturising primer. Now, obviously this isn't described as a primer, but for me personally, I always tend to go for moisturisers as a primer, and I don't tend to use standard primers because it works better for my skin type, which is combination but predominantly dry, just with slightly oily T-zone, and sometimes I don't have an oily T-zone. So I do need to think more along the lines of treating the dry element of my skin. So today I've got a very light amount of the Serumizer on, and I've got my normal skincare, which is toner, vitamin C, SPF 50, because this SPF 30 will not be enough coverage, no way. So I've got all that in first, I've let that dry down, and then I've gone in with the Serumizer. So now I'm ready to apply this. So I've picked this up in the shade 1C Cameo. So I've been experimenting a bit over the last few months with going either cool or neutral. Neutral often leaning to warm or yellow, cool often leaning to pink. So I'm bang in the middle of the two, I think. So sometimes I'm buying the cool, sometimes I'm buying the neutral. So on this occasion, I've gone for the cool. So first look of this, it does look quite pale, but it actually looks like quite a good match for me. I know that's my hand and that's not giving you an idea of the match on my face, but looking at it from other colours I've had, that does look like a good colour, so hopefully this will work. So there are 20 shades in this and I've gone for the second shade. So it could be too light, we'll have to wait and see. But the first shade is very fair with neutral undertones, which looked a little bit warm to me, which is why I'm hoping the 1C Cameo will be a better match. If I wanted to go up, I could then go for 1N, which is fair with neutral. So that's not the very fair. And then there's a light with cool undertones 2C Oak. So that could be my other option. So there's some fairly good options if you're within my sort of skin tone, but obviously it's going right the way up to very deep tones. So we've got the last one being 7N Mahogany, rich deep with neutral undertones. So a reasonable shade range, and I think there's enough options to get a good match for me. So I think the tone of this looks fine. Whether I should have gone for the fair rather than the very fair, I will find out now. So I think what I might do is apply it one side just with my fingers because it is a tinted moisturiser. I'll see how I feel about the application. And if I don't usually like to do anything with my fingers, to be honest. Apart from shimmers on my eyes, I prefer the application with a sponge usually or with a brush. But I'm going to try this because it is a moisturiser and it just seems to be going on very nicely actually. I'm not doing the other side. I'm going to possibly try a brush on the other side to show you the difference. I think I will. So I love the way this is pretty much already corrected the redness. My skin has absorbed it very nicely. It seems to be sitting very well on top of the skincare that I explained to you about that I've got. So my light skincare. Now obviously this might work with a thicker skincare base. I'm just a little bit cautious after what happened with the Hourglass, but I will experiment further. I will try this with the face base as well, but in all honesty this is something I'm more likely to wear in the summer when I'm not so likely to need something as thick as the face base. So in the summer I think this with something like the Serumizer could be a perfect combination, whereas in the winter when I'm looking for something thicker like the face base I probably wouldn't be going for a tinted moisturiser. So this is an early chance for me to test something that would work nicely for me in the summer. I think that's beautiful actually. I think that is very beautiful and it applied really nicely with the fingers. And you've seen that I added a bit more, so it is buildable but definitely sheer to light as it says. So I think the very first layer I put on gave me that sheer coverage, and now that little bit extra has taken it up to light. But I think that's really, really nice. You can still see redness. It's not correcting everything, but it's corrected enough for it to just make my skin look better. So it's your skin but better. I'll do this side now, and this time I will use a brush just to see if there's any difference. I'm going to go with a brush that's actually not available anymore, so apologies for that, but this is the Rapha BO2. We do now have the new Rapha brush, the LC03, which is the final version of this brush. This one was not so popular. This was the very first in the series, but if you did get this, I find this is my #1 for skin tints and lightweight products like this. Straight away I prefer applying it with the brush just because of the feel. I think you just get that cool sensation from the skincare, which when you apply it with your hands, it feels warm because your hands are warm. Unless you've got cold hands, obviously, but today I don't have cold hands. So this applies beautifully with a brush. So I definitely prefer that, even though it applied very nicely with hands. So I think you could do either. Just my personal preference is the brush. This is really, really nice. This is reminding me of the Chantecaille. So if you're familiar with the Chantecaille, is it the Future Skin? I can't remember what it's called now. Anyway, the Chantecaille tinted moisturiser is beautiful, and this reminds me of that. Very similar, as in it's the same sort of lightweight finish, the sort of same sort of coverage, same sort of perfecting of redness, and also the colour match. I haven't mentioned the colour match, but I think the colour match is perfect. Really pleased with that. So it's a bit quicker to apply with a brush and just felt better, and I think it gives a slightly more seamless sort of finish. And I think the brush would be better if you wanted to build a bit. So I'm taking a bit off the back of my hand with the brush and in the areas where I always feel my redness pokes through, especially at the moment with that sort of redness I'm getting with the winter. I'm just tapping a bit in to see if I can get a bit more of a build than I did with my fingers, and I think a tiny bit more. So I think when it says buildable, it's a bit of a generous description, but tiny bit buildable. But then, do you get a tinted moisturiser expecting something that's going to really be buildable, or are you just looking for something that's pretty sheer? Because that's certainly what I expect from a tinted moisturiser. So slightly buildable, but I think my skin looks beautiful. I really, really do. I think that that is gorgeous. No signs of caking anywhere. It's sitting beautifully on my skin. It's given me a lovely healthy glow. This is definitely challenging Lisa Eldridge and Chantecaille, which are my top two for, well, Lisa Eldridge is the skin tint. Chantecaille I think is called the tinted moisturiser, isn't it? And now this one. This is stunning, absolutely stunning. I love it. Beautiful. And all the redness on my nose has gone there. Nothing much to say about that other than I absolutely adore it. I'm not going to do a wear test today because I want to get this video out soon. So what I will do is I'll put a comment below after I've released this video. I'll pin it to the top, letting you know how it wore. But I mean, it's saying it's got, I think it said 16 hours wear. I don't know, but I will let you know how my makeup is sitting, because I'm now going to go on and apply a full face of makeup. So many of you may only use something like this for a sort of no makeup day, or a very easy makeup day, which is probably what I would use it for mostly, in all honesty. But sometimes, especially in the summer, I like something this lightweight before I do a full face, and certainly I think this one would work well for that. So this, you're going to see it in a minute when it's fully set with everything else, because the next step for me will be putting on the eye makeup and then the new blushes. So you can see how this wears, and I will put that note below letting you know how my makeup lasts, because it did say that your makeup will not slide and that it's humidity proof. Not that I'm challenging that much in the winter here in Wales where it's quite chilly, but I am inside with the heating, so I suppose that it will get a reasonable test. So I'll be back when I've put everything else on. You can see how this is sitting with powder. So I've gone in with my concealer and a bit of contour and the powder then on top, which has sat beautifully actually on top of that skin tint. It doesn't look remotely cakey, it just works beautifully. And I still feel I've got quite a nice glow as well. So this is definitely one that's going to work brilliantly for the full glam look as well. So 10 out of 10 plus more actually. Absolutely adore this one. Really lovely, lovely product. So anyway, let's move on now to the eyes. So Victoria Beckham eyeliners are my favourite eyeliners on the planet, and I pretty much buy every shade that is launched from Victoria. So this one is Jeans. So with all the blues we've had recently, I've really, really enjoyed them. So I'm looking forward to trying this. And I'll just show you how this looks on the back of my hand. It's a lovely shade of blue, very sort of in keeping with the shades we've seen in eyeshadow palettes over the holidays. So I'm going to try to do a pretty much blue look just with this, but I probably will go in with some sort of brown in the crease, brown powder. But I'm just going to start this by taking it quite roughly across the top of the lid, because I'm going to work it up initially. So I'm putting that much on. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to try and use the end of this. I don't usually use this for all over the eye, but I'll see how I get on. It's very, oh look, I've made a mistake there because I've closed my eye and now I've got the blue up there, so don't do that. As I was saying, I usually use this for smudging out liner, but not for necessarily using this all over the eye. So these eyeliners, I can't get any words right as usual, they work very well smudged out, so you can really see the difference in the colour there just from blending that already. It's blending out very easily. They do dry down and lock in, but you do have quite a bit of time with them. So I'll take a bit more because I want a bit more of the blue here. And now sort of take this into the outer V area. I think I can build up a little bit more. I don't want too much of the deeper blue in the inner corner of my eye, so I'm just building it more on the outer section. But as you can see, this is almost performing in the same way an eyeshadow pen will. So you can achieve these looks with pretty much all of the Victoria Beckham pens. And now I'm going to run this under a little bit. I'm going to stop there and then start using the smudger brush so that it's a bit lighter as it meets the inner section of my eye. I'm happy for it to be a bit deeper in this section here, so I can go back in with the pen and sort of go over that a tiny bit, because this isn't a terribly dark blue. I will actually swatch it against Victoria's other blues so you can see the difference, because this is definitely a lot lighter than the navy one. So now I'm taking it as a proper liner. I'll be leaving it there. So we've got the lighter shade across the lid, and then we've got it lining here with more depth. And I'm going to take this underneath as well, so it's tight lining with this shade. So I think I'll leave it there and then go in with powders. I'll just do exactly the same on the other eye. So I've done both sides, but now I want to soften the crease area where it's a bit sharp and a bit too dark. So I'm going into this face palette that I just reviewed yesterday on my channel from MAC. So this one has bronze, contour and highlight shades, and this light one here is the one I'm going to start with using a fluffy brush, and this is the Sonia G Blender Pro, and I'm just going to take a little bit of this into the crease and sort of go over the edge of the blue and give it a little bit of a slightly darker tone, and also soften this blue edge, which is what I'm hoping it'll do, and I think it's going to do that perfectly. And I might just leave it at that because I've taken the blue quite high and the whole look is pretty much the blue. But I really like this tone actually with the blue. I think they work very well together. I think it needs to be a cool toned sort of brown for this to work well. And I'm going to run a bit of that as well underneath the blue using the Rapha No. 3 brush. So I'm going into this one from Urban Decay, the Moon Dust, and I'm going to use this Star Cowgirl, which is a little bit more white. Just take a little bit of this on my little finger and take a bit there into the inner corner and just bring a little bit of this sparkle across the top of the eye, because every look needs a bit of sparkle in my world. There, I think that works really well actually. So any sort of sparkly topper that you've got would work for that, I think, but I would go for something that's a bit more white. And I'm going to go into my Tom Ford Black Diamond quad now, just for this shade here. Any neutral palette you have that's got a white powder would work for this. This just happens to be my personal favourite, and I didn't want to bring the shimmer into the inner corner. I decided to just go with that because it just gives that pop of brightness. I love it actually. Just every time this goes on, I just think, wow, I need a lifetime supply of this shade from Tom Ford. And also taking this under the brow, and this also sort of cleans at the edge here. And I'll do the same here. It just gives you a really nice clean up. So that is the final look, minus mascara. So another absolute winner from Victoria Beckham. I think the shade is beautiful. I'll just show you the other blues. I've just got them out now. I don't know if this is every blue. It probably is, because I do tend to buy them all, like I said. So the first one here is Blueberry. So here we have Blueberry. Definitely more of a sort of spring shade, that one. And the next one I've got here is Navy Noir. So this is definitely darker. I think this Navy Noir with the jeans could actually be quite a good combo you could play around with. And then a slightly lighter, more greeny blue, which is the Surfside. So here is Surfside. So they're the 4 shades. So here is Jeans. I think I probably blended that out a bit more if you're wondering why it doesn't look so deep. So I'll just add a bit more just to make it a bit more equal. There, that's how the four of them look together. So I think this one might be my new favourite blue, you know, I really love it. So another hit, another recommendation. It's Victoria Beckham, so I didn't expect much else, and it's a blue which I love. So I love the way that I was able to do pretty much the full eye. Obviously I've added a couple of little bits, but on the whole I've used it for the full eye. And actually I did only use the end. I didn't use anything else for the eyeliner across the whole eye. It worked brilliantly actually. So another big tick for Victoria Beckham. I'll just go off camera, do my mascara, put some lipstick on, and we will finish with the new Patrick Ta blushes. So there is my final look with mascara, and love it. Anyway, let's move on to the blushes. So I've picked up the two lightest shades from the new launch from Patrick Ta from his blushes. So he's launched 4 new shades in the ever so popular blush duos, and finally here in the UK we're actually getting them the same time they're launching in the US. We don't have to wait months and months, so I'm really pleased about that. It was also the case with his last 2 releases, so it seems to be a trend, and these are now in Cult Beauty. So I do have linked below links for all the products I'm showing you today. So if you want to get this in the US, I believe it's sold out in Sephora US when I checked, but there was still availability on the US Patrick Ta site. We can't order to the UK from the Patrick Ta website unless we pay an incredibly high shipping fee, but luckily we have it at Cult Beauty, so there's a link for that for the UK as well. So anyway, let's look at these. So we have She's Seductive. So if I just lift the flap covering the cream here. So the full title of this is the Patrick Ta Major Headlines Double Take Cream and Powder Blush Duo. And the other shade I picked up was She Goes to the Gym. So here we have She Goes to the Gym. Now the one I think that is very similar to the lighter, more neutral shades that also launched last year is this one. So I am going to do some comparisons there, because I did actually avoid a lot of the Patrick Ta blushes when they first launched because they were too bright. The 2 I actually went for, I won't swatch these, the 2 I went for that worked for me was this one, which is Just Enough, and the other one, which is very much a summer shade for me, is called She's the Moment. So very different, and you can see the sort of pigment there, but those I could just about get away with, but all of the other shades were too strong. Until last year Patrick launched more neutral shades, so I picked them both up again, and I do think that we're looking at something very similar. So I'll show you, these 2 are very similar as well actually. So these are the 2 I bought last year. So this one is Not Too Much, and this one is She's Blushing. Actually, She's Blushing might not have been the new one, but look how similar these 2 are. She's Blushing might have been in the original release, I can't remember now to be honest, but very, very similar. So now if I show you She's Seductive, which is the one that's just launched, there are the 3 of those together. So not a massive difference. So I'm going to do a swatch comparison of all 3 of these for you. So the new She's Seductive, this is the cream and this is the powder. And now with She's Blushing, here is the cream. Looks a bit more pigmented actually, doesn't it? And here is the powder. Certainly I think this was from the very first launch, She's Blushing, so there was one that suited me. So definitely more pigmented. Sorry, my camera tries to adjust to the colour on the screen, so when I put my super white arm up, it tries to make the colour, the light fit with the colour on my arm, so it slightly alters. It's gone back to normal again now. So lastly, comparing with Not Too Much. So here is the cream and here is the powder. So this is the one I think is probably the most similar, but it definitely, the shades are different. So this is the new one here, the She's Seductive, and this one is the Not Too Much. So yeah, not a massive difference. I wouldn't really say that you need to, certainly if you've got this one, I don't think you need the new one. Possibly if you've got this one you might want to go for this because it is that much less pigmented. So I'm going to try the She's Seductive on first. I'm going to use my Makeup by Mario F4 brush, which is quite a perfect brush for this to be honest, and I'm using the thickest end. So you start with the powder with Patrick So tentatively, because even though these are light shades, I know that they're likely to pack a punch, and that tiny little tap, look how much that's given me. So this is quite a dense brush though, that is worth bearing in mind. You could use a fluffier brush to get slightly less, but if you're going to use a brush like this, just a tiny tap. But that is an absolutely stunning shade actually, I love that. Really perfect for my skin tone. Just take a little bit into the eye there and bring it up slightly onto the forehead. That is beautiful. That is absolutely stunning, I love it. I'd be quite happy to stop there and do nothing else. I love that. Really, really nice. But anyway, let's now top it with the cream. So I'll go into the thinner end of this and go into the cream. Again, very tentatively. And I'll take this across the top. Whoa. This sits so beautifully on top of powder. And I know a lot of people think that's strange, but then when I review any sort of liquid blush these days, I tend to always try it under and over powder. And in the last year, with a rush of liquid and cream blushes, my favourite final look was always when I did the cream on top of the powder. I think you get more pigment and you just get a more smooth finish. So I totally agree with Patrick on this one. I think it is a lovely way to apply it. Definitely bring in the pigment though. Even though this looks so light for my skin compared to a lot of the shades, this really is very pigmented. So if you've got my skin tone, this is going to last you a very long time, because I've literally done one tap to achieve this much, and I know that I need to go around the edges and kind of keep going to lighten this up a little bit. Possibly go in with some sort of finishing powder to bring that down a bit more. Not too much though, I think that's probably just about right, but I would like to just soften the edges a bit with a finishing powder. But that is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So that is She's Seductive. Love that, I really do love that. I will go in at the end with a finishing powder, but I'll do the other side first. And this one is She Goes to the Gym. So this one is even more pigmented, so I will need to be careful. I'll do a swatch of this now so you can see how this looks on my arm first. So there's the cream and there's the powder. You can see there the powder is very pigmented, isn't it? So I will need to be careful, but beautiful shades. So I will go for a fluffier brush. I'll use my favourite Rapha brush for this and just one tap, and that's all I'm doing. And see how that goes. Straight away you see the difference using a fluffy brush. If I'd have gone in for one tap with the Mario brush, which is dense, I would have had so much. Whereas with this fluffy magical brush, I get the perfect amount with one single tap. So this is going to suit skin tones much deeper than mine as well as mine. I think it certainly suits mine, but you're going to be able to get so much more. I'll do one more tap, but I must admit I wouldn't go higher than this myself. I just want to show you a little bit more of the colour, which is what happened on this side, and I had to sort of blend it in. So one more tap gives you this much pigment. And that is a really beautiful flushed, I've just been training in the gym sort of shade, isn't it? Which is lovely, especially if you're going for that natural, no makeup look, which I originally was, so it would have gone nicely with the Tinted Moisturizer on its own. And then look like I literally have just popped out for a run or come out of the gym. I don't go running and I don't go to the gym. I have my gym equipment in the house. I use the Peloton and Pilates and all sorts of things. And I do go very red in the face when I do cardio. And I think this is a slightly prettier shade than my post-cardio red, in all honesty. And I've got the new Rapha LCO2, which is the same shape as that Mario on the smaller end, which is again perfect for cream blush. One tap. Can't see too much on there, but I'm still so nervous about the pigment. So yeah, even that one tap that wasn't visible on the brush, and look. it's certainly visible when I put it on the cheek, and that is a perfect amount. That is such a pretty shade. I think I prefer it to that one now. I thought that one was pretty perfect, but I think this one is just more natural. This one really looks like I'm wearing makeup, whereas this one is more of a natural shade. And I think this shade as well is a bit more summer suitable, going with sort of corals and warmer shades, whereas this one will go with, it just looks more natural. It will go with a few things actually. It doesn't have to be with a cool look or a warm look, this one, but I do think this one suits a warm look better than this. This one's definitely more my shade, I think, but I love that one as well. So I'll put a tiny dab more. Look at that, one tiny dab, and look how much I got. So they are more neutral, but wow, they still pack a punch. So do not go swirling around in these if you've got fair skin, because you're going to be in for a shock. So gentle application, but very easy just for that one pat. So there we have She Goes to the Gym and She's Seductive. They're both gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. This one I'd say is an oilier shade for me. This one more a summer shade. I am going to go in with some sort of finishing powder though, just to get around the edges to make them a bit more soft. I'm using the YSL finishing powder in shade 1 on my Sonia G Buffer Pro, and now I'm just going to take this around the edges. I'm not going over the blush. I want to keep that sort of shine that I've got from the cream. I'm just going around the edges. So there they are, slightly blended out. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Which one do you prefer? And have you gone for those bright colours? Because you can see the pigment I'm getting from these. So if you go for the deeper 2 shades, they are going to pack an absolutely massive punch. They really are. So I think these two are just perfect for me, and I love them both. Very pleased I got them, even though I think I've already got one very similar to the She's Seductive, as I said. But anyway, you might already have that sort of shade and might not want to get the She's Seductive. But anyway, if you do have them all, I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether you think they're similar. And anyway, that is pretty much the end of my look. I haven't added highlighter because I quite like the glow I'm getting on the tops of my cheeks at the moment. I don't really feel like I need a highlighter, so I'm going to skip the highlighter today. And overall, I love the way my skin is looking from the Laura Mercier Moisturising Tinted Moisturizer. It's sitting beautifully still. It's not going into the folds of my skin at all. There's no sign of cakiness. It's been over an hour since that first application. It looks beautiful. It's sitting absolutely perfectly. It doesn't feel at all tacky underneath. I do have powder over the top obviously, but I haven't gone mad with the powder and it doesn't feel tacky. Not that it's got a dry down particularly, it's just not a really wet finish or too tacky or sticky. I think it's a beautiful tinted moisturizer. It could really threaten Lisa Eldridge Top Spot and Chantecaille because it is stunning. You saw my reaction to it when I put it on. I really was impressed with it. And then the Jeans Victoria Beckham liner, beautiful, fabulous addition to the range of shades from Victoria Beckham, and one that I will certainly be using regularly, I can see that. And the 2 blushes from Patrick Ta. I love this formula. I love the powder and cream finishes. I think they apply beautifully, easily, no patchiness, just watch out for that pigment. But I think both these 2 shades work really well on my fair skin. I think they'll work really nicely going right up to medium. And then if you're brave enough with my skin tone, you could go for the next ones, but personally I think that's more for the medium to deep. But it is really good to see such an inclusive range from Patrick. There is a very good range. I think everybody will find a good shade for their skin tone. Anyway, absolutely loved it, and I would love to hear your thoughts on everything I've tried today. Have you picked up any of these? Are they in your wish list, or are they in your I will never buy list? Whichever your thoughts are, I would love to hear them. And if you've enjoyed this, please do hit the like button and the subscribe button as well if you're not subscribed. It's so helpful to me. And if you're already subscribed, you're at the end of another one of my videos. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you, and I hope to see all of you again for my next video. Take care everybody. Bye.